Hello again, cultists. Like the year itself, we're breezing through these episodes. And once again, we're so glad you could join us for this one and what I want to be joining us for. Tonight, we're heading straight back to the start of the 80s for the George Lucas-inspired sci-fi fantasy boon. And what better movie to look at than Roger Corman's epic, in inverted commas, space saga, Battle Beyond the Stars. So prepare for laser battles, a myriad of alien species, and John Saxon chewing the scenery. And probably the most erotically charged spaceship you're ever likely to see. As always, I'm DK, your host for these things, and as always, I'm not alone. I wanted a guest on this episode that was there when this thing came out, that has similar experiences. So when it comes to the final score, it will be a fair one. So, I thought about it for a while. And while we had some volunteers for this one, there really only was one choice. He's not been with us for a while. That's right, folks. You last heard him a couple of years ago now for our Better Off Dead review. It's the Kaiju Whisperer himself, Nigel. How you doing, fella?
Hey, I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad, mate. You know, keeping on. We're going back in time this time around. I mean, have you got any memories from that period? Because the creativity that was on display around the late 70s, early 80s, there was a lot of fertile ground for filmmakers. It was, arguably the biggest explosion of sci-fi in cinema since the 50s. And before that, the Flash Gordon serials. I mean, we'll be talking about this film specifically shortly, but have you got any memories of the movies and the vibe back then?
I think back then for me it was obviously the time of sort of video stores and things like this, where it was as if every single week there's another film that you've heard about or that you've seen in a copy of Starlog or something like this, and you just couldn't keep up. That was my opinion as a kid. I just couldn't possibly keep up with it all. But it's great that it meant that you would flick through magazines or see adverts in comics that would just take your breath away. Be like, oh my days, I need to see that. I need to find out about this. And I think we've lost a little bit of that nowadays. Everything is so kind of available. There's not that sense of wonder that we used to have, wandering into a video store, looking at shelves of VHS, thinking, wow, look at that cover. I need to rent that. Taking it home and then thinking, wow, I never need to rent that again.
Yeah. I was thinking that was nothing like the cover.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, good memories.
Yeah. I mean, every generation argues that their childhood was when the best movies were produced. But I mean, biased as I am, I think that holds particularly true for the 80s. I mean, what would you say to that?
Of course it is. The 80s was just mad, wasn't it? It was, everyone was coked out the face, wanting to make movies. And there were so many made, some of which are terrible, but they're so terrible they're wonderful. Some of which were real kind of bedding grounds for talent, which this one probably is, to be fair. That if you look at the people working on it and in it, it's a real kind of who's who for films in the past and going forward. It's got some real good points, even if it's not the greatest film ever made.
So yeah, without further ado, we'll head back one last time for today's movie, which of course is Battle Beyond the Stars. It's a 1980 American space opera film directed by Jimmy T. Murakami and produced and distributed by Roger Corman's New World Pictures. It's a science fiction themed interpretation of 1960s Magnificent Seven, which obviously itself is a Western film version of 1954's Seven Samurai in outer space. The film stars Richard Thomas, Robert Vaughn, George Peppard, John Saxon, Sybil Danning, Darlene Flugel, Sam Jaffe, Jeff Corey, Morgan Woodward, Earl Bowen, and Lynn Carlin. In keeping with Corman's long-standing cultivation of emergent talents, the screenplay was written by John Sayles, with an early score from James Horner and special effects designed by novice filmmaker at that point, James Cameron. The film was theatrically released by New World Pictures into 330 theatres on July the 25th, 1980, and grossed $1.73 million in its first 3 days. Corman recouped his costs upon selling the foreign distribution to Orion Pictures and Warner Brothers for $2.5 million. It was considered a decent enough box office success, despite receiving mixed reviews from critics at the time. It then went on to be nominated for 5 Saturn Awards, including Best Science Fiction Film and Best Special Effects, with Sybil Danning winning a special award for Outstanding Achievement. I'm not quite sure how to take that. Over the years, Battle Beyond the Stars has achieved cult status, with many citing it as one of Corman's, and weirdly enough, George Peppard's best movies. And like all films we look at here on Cult Classics, Battle Beyond the Stars is available in physical format and on streaming services dependent on your location. So, yeah, I mean, I was obsessed with this one as a kid. There was I don't know if you remember this, Nigel. There was a brief period in the early 80s where you just could not get Star Wars on video. And yeah, and in its place there was a lot, and I mean a lot of kind of copycats trying to, cash in on the craze. So, we made do with what we had, which were often poor, cheap imitations. Now, my dad used to pick up a video every weekend back then, Betamax no less, for us to watch, and he knew just how crazy I was about sci-fi and fantasy, particularly Star Wars at that point. And so one weekend he picked this up. Cover alone, with its cast of not quite accurate aliens from the movie, sparked so much imagination that that weekend I watched it, then watched it again immediately afterwards, and then again. And I think finally, in truth, I watched it over about 4 times back to back that day. I mean, it must have driven my parents mad, but honestly, I loved it. And when it was shown on TV, I recorded it and watched it over and over again. Even when Star Wars was eventually released, I still kept coming back to this one. It made such a big impression that by the end, I was probably looking back on it with rose-tinted glasses to some extent. Watched it again just a couple of years ago when I was, let's just say I wasn't as impressed. Still, it holds a special place in my heart. So how about you, buddy? Do you have any memories of the first time you watched this one?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, I'm very similar to yourself, because as a kid, when you see this, the special effects are top drawer. They look fabulous as a kid. It's almost comparable to Star Wars when you first see it. And it's only maybe upon repeat watch that you're thinking, I'm sure I've seen that shot before in the film. I'm sure I've seen it again. And it's there again. And you begin to see how much repeated. But the number of things in it that as a kid, you are like, wow, that is so cool. The score is absolutely top drawer. Even like the opening titles and sequences, just a really classy. It belies how cheap really the film is. But there's loads of stuff, and I absolutely loved it. Random by that score really took hold of me as a kid, and I absolutely loved it. I remember as soon as I could afford the LP, which was several years later, I went out, bought the LP of it, and I was absolutely over the moon with it. And it's something I still listen to now. Watching it the other night, my first thing was, God, these titles are really good. And then some of the effects, I was like, wow, this really stands up. And then as it gets into the film, you're like, yeah, that bit doesn't quite stand up, does it? I don't know, that acting's a little bit wooden, isn't it? And there's a lot of things where you go, I can understand why as a kid I was in love with this film. Absolutely in love with it. And I still really enjoyed it. But it's a bit of a popcorn film, and it's rose-tinted specs, like you say. There's a bit of that there for sure.
Yeah. I mean, is it something you find yourself going back to visit frequently, or is it seldom watched these days?
I think it's one of those that I bet I've watched every year, even if it's just once a year, for sort of several years. But I watch things for different reasons now. I might watch it for the score, or I might watch it just for the different starship shots, or there's different reasons why I'll kind of put different films on. And it's one that I do still quite enjoy, but I can watch this film now while I'm having my tea or while I'm doing something else, and it's almost on in the background. It's one of those sort of films. You don't really need to get into it very deep, do you, Battle Beyond the Stars, to be fair?
Yeah, it's not something that you need to pay attention to the intricacies of the plot. Let's be fair. So, Yeah, I mean, it came out of Roger Corman's desire to make a space opera style film in the wake of what was obviously a massive worldwide success of Star Wars. It was, from what I can gather, it was budgeted at an estimated 2 million.
Yeah.
Uh, and at the time of its release, it was the most expensive film produced by Corman. Much of the budget allegedly went toward paying the salaries of George Peppard and Robert Vaughn. Since both side of screenwriter sales, previous films were low budget productions. He'd already written the Corman produced The Lady in Red and Piranha, the latter of which was both a financial and kind of critical success. And at one point, Australian director Richard Franklin was attached to direct. However, he was replaced by Murakami, who was a veteran animator who previously been an uncredited co-director on Corman's Humanoids from the Deep. Now, it was co-produced by Orion Pictures, who distributed the film in Europe. It wears its influences on its sleeve. I mean, we'll get into casting in a little while, but obviously there's a big link there to Magnificent Seven. But even when you look at the script, the fact that it takes place on the planet Akia and its inhabitants, the Akira, obviously named in honor of director Akira Kurosawa, whose film Seven Samurai provided the framework for the plot. So obviously it's not the most original plot that there is, but I do think it suffices. I think it keeps entertaining, and I think the thing that stands out about this to me is, and I think I mentioned it to you at the time, that you messaged me to say that you were watching it, and as I say, when I watched it a couple of years ago, I wasn't that impressed. But looking up some of the dialogue to write the blurb for this episode, it surprised me just how sharp and enjoyable the dialogue can be. In certain, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is no Shakespeare, but there's some good lines in it, and reading the lines itself made me want to watch it. So the very next night I did. So as far as the writing goes, I mean, what are your impressions on it? Is there anything that grab you, or is there what stands out to you about this?
Yeah, the thing I liked about it is it doesn't hang around. You start watching the show, and I clicked up the sort of the details, and by 8 minutes in, he's already off looking for mercenaries. We're 8 minutes in the film, he's already on the ship, he's off. It's like, whoa, slow down, dude. It's just, it absolutely sort of fly script. It slows down a little bit in the middle, but in general, it just does. It's a very common script. It just gets on with stuff, and you're kind of there for the ride.
Yeah. So, I mean, with regards to the writing, as I say, there's certain bits in this, and I'll get this out of the way. I was going to bring it up at some point. There seems to be a need in the script for every now and again, and I don't know if it's to say, look, this is Star Wars, but we've got a bit of titillation in here. There's a few references to sex, and some of them feel just a little bit forced, if you know what I mean. And I just wondered if you picked up on that watching it.
Yeah, it's a Corman film, so he knows his audience. He knows who he's making films for. So yeah, he's always going to include that, and it's there's a number of times where you're looking, going, really? But at the same time, if you watch them in the way that they were kind of written and designed to be, you're like, yeah, okay, I get it. I know I was going to enjoy that. Good on him, crack on with it, sort of thing.
Yeah. I think the only thing that to me hasn't aged particularly well, and I don't know if that's just my personal sensitivities, is the one where two of Sador's men go down and kidnap the woman. I could have done without that little bit. I mean, it leads a bit to plot later, but it still leaves me feeling a bit uncomfortable. I don't know what you thought when watching those scenes.
It's of its time. It's like it's one of those things. She ends up getting them both blown up, so she has these sort of Swedish revenge on them both.
Yeah,
So it's one of those things. It doesn't. I don't dwell on anything like that. It's just part of a film. It's a story. It's fantasy. It's one of those things for me.
yeah. It's. I mean, I'm all right with things like the guy setting his, basically setting his daughter up with Shad. Uh,
Yeah,
that
that guy's a bit like a Kinder egg, isn't he? He's a
it's.
little bit. That's a bizarre kind of. Now that's more disturbing for me. Like, what is this? What is this guy doing? Why is he an egg? What's going on?
I remember being really, really creeped out by him when I was younger and watched this, and I don't know if it was his design or his line delivery. It was just, you know, Sam Jaffe. He was a good actor, but damn, he was creepy in this. It, yeah, that bit I can get on board with. That bit I can see, but the dialogue, when was it later between what is it, Darlene Flugel's character and Sybil Danning's character, where Sybil Danning's, dingle dangle and twist his solenoids or something. I was just thinking, oh my god, this is like something from Sesame Street.
It's a driving movie audience, though, isn't it? That's what it's designed for. So it's a script that's written for a particular audience at the time. So you just have to accept that and get on and laugh about it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain lines in this that have me kind of cracking up. The one that stands out for me, and it's just delivered in such a subtle way, whereas Shad ends up on Nestor's ship, and Nestor, says this ship we can adequately control the ship with four of us at any time, and he says, well, what about the fifth person? And he says, oh, we always
Yeah,
carry a spare.
yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
like,
that's a brilliant line. Yeah, that's I've got that written down as one of my favorite lines. Yeah, I love that.
yeah, it's good, and I think Peppard delivers a couple as well, and it's the creativity on display due to the plot, where they've got the two Kelvins at one point sat there, and he's cooking hot dogs on them and playing the harmonica. They're literally like kind of sat around a
Yeah,
cowboy campfire, and I just find that kind of stuff hilarious. The creativity in this, I think it's second to none, and I think it's one of those kind of productions where, because they have got such energetic and such talented people working on it, it must have felt at the time like it was just like a hive of creativity and ideas. And
yeah.
what can we do? What else can we put in? I mean, looking at Jimmy T. Murakami, I mean, he was an American animator and film director with a long career of working in numerous countries. But I was surprised to learn by, reading up on this in preparation for this episode, that two of his best known works are The Snowman and When the Wind Blows.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, he worked on stuff like heavy metal and things like that. But
Oh, yeah, I love heavy metal.
yeah, but to say that this was worked on by the guy that directed The Snowman, it's such a tonal shift. And I mean, to say that he came away from both, and they're both pretty good productions. It's he's to me, he's not as renowned as he should be. In fairness, I think he's done a good job at direction, and I think you can see a lot of the good direction in this. There is one shot in particular, and we will get into it with the effects, with the models. There is one shot in particular when the fight starts later on, and it shows they destroy a Malmori ship above Akia, and as it explodes, it cuts to the horizon and it shows you the ship exploding, and it shows three of the ships from the mercenaries like curve around to follow. I don't know if you remember that shot, and it just shows them turning in the atmosphere. And I looked at that and I thought, my God, that's as good as anything that you would see today. I
I
think
think there's lots of little bits like that in the film that do look really, really cool.
for the most part, I think it works. I think the problem is, and I don't think this is a production design, that's why I'm bringing it up now. I think to an extent, you had a bit of confusion on the production because half of it does come across like that used universe feel that you get in Star Wars. And so much so that it brings up the tropes like you've got to have a bit of a cantina section, you've got to have plenty of aliens and that kind of thing. But I think half of it is rooted in that, and the other half is still stuck in this late 1960s, 1970s sci-fi kind of vibe, where everything is pristine and glowing and multicolored lights everywhere. And I think, to me, that's dated more than these other used universe bits kind of thing. When I see Nell, as weird, as strange as a shit design that is, I think that still works. But when you look into, when he first gets into Dr. Hephaestus's lab and she's working on the androids, it feels very, very, very early 1970s sci-fi to me. And I think
Feels
that,
very cheap to
yeah,
me.
it does. I think that's the problem. I think for every little bit that still looks good, you have a bit that tonally it doesn't quite match, and it comes across as looking a bit, Peter Davison Doctor Who.
I think you can see where they've obviously clearly got a budget and they've gone, right, where do we need to put the money? And somebody's gone, just put the money into a bit of special effects. We'll put that on the trailer. Everyone will think this is wow. Well, yeah, but what are we going to do about this studio and this set? Oh, I don't know. Just go out back, look at bins, see what you can get. We'll make it up from there. So I think they've clearly got a way of going, right, let's put the budget into that. The rest of it we'll make up as we go on. Because some of
Yeah.
the interiors of ships, everyone seems to fly the ship with the most awful handheld type joysticks that
Oh
just
God.
wobble all over places. What the hell are you doing with that? You can't fly a ship with that, surely. But
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. You're kind of loving the fact that it looks so cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. This and the design of like things like Nell, that's straight out of. I mean, even some of the sound effects, to be honest, come right out of the Glenn A. Larson school of TV sci-fi. I mean, there's things on there that you
Yeah, there's
think,
loads
okay,
of
I
them.
last heard that in Buck Rogers.
Yeah.
Uh,
Have you heard the sound of the doors opening? What's the noise with the doors opening?
isn't that Vader?
Yes.
I thought so. I was just thinking,
Doors open
holy
on Sador's ship. It's always Vader. Yeah.
yeah. I thought, how they get away with it? And Sadar shit, my god. I mean, I get I get. I mean, Spaceballs took the piss out of it at the time with, let's have a really big ship. It's menacing. It's obviously the villain. Fine,
Yeah.
but then you go inside Sadar's ship, and it's like you said, it's like they've found a disused British home stores, put a few things in there, and yeah, that's good enough. I think that the inside of that ship just looks terrible.
It does. But I suppose that's what you get with a $2 million budget, isn't it? You can't have everything.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they spent it more on cast members, uh, and we'll come to that now. Apparently, George Peppard had been the original choice to play Vin in the Magnificent Seven before, and that's even before Robert Vaughn, who played Lee in the Magnificent Seven,
Mm.
and he's playing virtually the same character.
Oh, yeah.
So it must have been tremendously easy for him with regards to that. But yeah, I think, I mean, we'll get on to some of the other cast members in a minute, but they are, along with, I would say, John Saxon, who seems to be channeling his best William Shatner in this. What do you think to Peppard, Vaughn, In fact, is there anybody that stands out in this for you?
They're all kind of hit and miss, are there? There's some like quite fun sort of cast in there that really ham it up and look like they must be enjoying it. I think Richard Thomas is just like a plank of wood in this. I think he's absolutely terrible. I hate him as Shad. He's absolutely terrible. I just can't enjoy him in this film at all. But Robert Vaughn, he must have only been required on set for about 2 days because really he's barely in the film, other than for a few shots. Party's great, but I think he's clearly looking, going, yeah, I'll come here, I'll do what I need to do, and then I'll bugger off. I'll get onto a proper film sort of thing. But it gives a decent performance. The acting is passable for this sort of film. I
just love the way you interjected a sigh in that. The acting is
passable. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's I think there's a number of bits that are a bit cringy. Some of the guys acting as part of the aliens, some of Sador's crew members are just terrible. I just imagine they must have found people on the streets or cast members whose job it was to make the tea, and they went, look, come on here, just be an alien for half an hour for us. There's some, but I guess that's the nature of these things. And you watch them, you enjoy watching them, and they're almost laughably bad. But that's part of the charm as well, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's that one scene that's the thing that I mean, the makeup isn't the best on the Malmori. It
really isn't.
It needed to move just a little more rather than just look like someone had got some Tupperware and stuck it to somebody's forehead and painted over it.
Yep.
But the scene that always gets me is the one where John Saxon comes out with his diabolical plan, and it is literally like watching a scene from Austin Powers. He is Dr. Evil.
Yeah,
and all his crew start laughing, and the one in the foreground laughing, and he's like flapping his arms like some kind of bird.
It's just like pantomime villains.
Yeah, it's awful, but it was at that point watching this time, and I'm thinking, why am I still watching this? Because I would imagine you've done the same. We've sat through some real crap over the years, and there's certain parts in this film that you watch and it just, what am I doing with my life? But then it gets on to the next scene and it's perfectly serviceable. You get onto another scene and you think, that's really good. It tonally, you almost get whiplash because it's just all over the place. And you kind of get the feeling that had things gone, not necessarily gone to plan, because from what I understand, there wasn't a big mess up in production or anything. But had a bit more time and a bit more care gone into it, do you think it could have been better? Or, and I'm not trying to diss him here, being under as a Corman production, do you think it was always destined to come across kind of haphazard?
100%. Well, I don't think haphazard. I think that's probably the wrong sort of phrase. I think it was exactly what it was designed to be in a way. As cheap as it could possibly be, based on the genre of film that it was, with a script that just absolutely flies, with everything about it is just fun. You can't take it seriously. The plot is, like you said, the plot is Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven, but there's so many things that's like, Sador's got the stellar converter, the most powerful weapon in the universe, and he still can't get his arm fixed, and he still can't get his comb over fixed. What's going on with technology in this universe?
As a child, I accepted it perfectly, and I just thought, okay, it's something villains do.
What, comb overs?
No, not the comb over thing. Well, it is something that villains do when you look at the resident in the White House right now. But when it comes to the whole lopping bits off of someone else and replacing your own body parts with it, I know they said, the two of the Malmori earlier on said, and he laughed once and now he's wearing his foot, and he was like, what? But then all of a
wearing
sudden,
his left foot.
yeah, all of a sudden, it cuts to the ship, and one of the Nestor, who you had no idea that was even involved in, this battle at this point, was captured, and he's sewing his own arm on. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Looking at it now,
I think that's one of the best bits of film. I think that's brilliant.
Oh my God, really?
Right, yeah. I just think it's great. He's there with his 3-fingered hand, going, "Oh God, this is great," and he starts to try and kill himself with it.
It was just completely out of left field for me, and I just
yeah, absolutely.
Why? And you've got the surgeon who seems to be using this cutting instrument as if he's playing a theremin. It's just weird. It's just
If you see the cutting instrument, you go, "That's not cutting through anything, dude. You might need to get a new instrument." It's a saw with about 4 teeth.
Yeah, it does look like something that they would cobble together on Blue Peter.
Yeah.
But apparently Julia Duffy made a film debut in this, playing Shad's sister, and I did watch out for her, but I couldn't see. Apparently, Kathy Griffin plays an Akira. She was an extra in this. So according to an interview with Richard Thomas, the wardrobe department had a hell of a time keeping the top of Sybil Danning's costume on, and had to resort to using band-aids. So this was her first American movie. I mean, what can you say to that?
Exactly what they were doing with Sybil Danning's costumes. I think they spent more money on Sybil Danning's costumes than they did on half the cast.
They probably did, even though there was less of it.
Exactly.
Gelt is modelled closely after, obviously, the character Lee from Magnificent Seven, and some of Gelt's dialogue is almost lifted verbatim from the Magnificent Seven. Obviously, Robert Vaughn played Lee in Magnificent Seven and Gelt in this one, so easy paycheck. Corman probably just said, "Look, you don't even have to learn new lines for this. Just turn up, say what you said in Magnificent Seven. For shot 2, we'll sit you in a chair somewhere. For shot 3, all you need to do is get a bit of jam on your face. You're sorted."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think Robert Vaughn's good in this. I do quite like his character. He's got the coolest ship with the best sound effect portfolio associated with it. It's a very cool ship. He's great, but like you say, he's only in it for 5 minutes.
Yeah. I do agree with the style of the ship. I mean, there's something I don't know. I kind of like Cayman's ship. I think that's a pretty good one. And apparently John Saxon, and this pretty much, I think, John sums up John Saxon's turn in this. I mean, I love the guy, but he apparently took the role of Sadar because he liked the script and thought it was funny. So, I mean, he's not wrong.
If you look at Saxon's portfolio of films, this is verging on Shakespeare for him.
Oh my God! You saying this is better written than Enter the Dragon?
No. No, but not far off.
Yeah, well, it is better than Mitchell, so I'll give it that. What I didn't realize, Earl Bowen, who plays the lead Nestor, I didn't recognize him until I read it. Is Dr. Silberman from Terminator 1 and 2?
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't recognize that at all. No.
I know it's hard to recognize him under that obviously really expensive costume that we keep touching on it, which is the production design of this one. Now, Corman originally hired Cameron as a model maker for his studio after being impressed with his short film Exogenesis. When the original art director for the film was fired, Cameron became responsible for the majority of the film's special effects, or as Cameron later put it, production design and art direction. It was his first big break. I'm guessing he still is leaving Piranha 2 out of the equation. Now, while Cameron initially worked on camera rigging, he soon started working on special effects and production design of the interior sets. Now, the low budget led to Cameron's designing the spaceship's corridors out of spray-painted McDonald's containers. Cameron paid great attention to detail and hardly slept for weeks while working on the film. His hard work paid off, as the special effects were one aspect of the film being highly received by fans and critics. Yeah. And just as an extra aside, with regards to production, the main body of the Hephaestus space station was made from a plastic terrarium salvaged from a dumpster. So,
there we go. Like we said earlier, go outside, look in the bins, see what you can get.
yeah. And I as you say, the special effects are a mixed bag. But I think for the most part, the model work is really good. I mean, there is an argument to be made. They use that like Malmori fighter ship a bit too many times. That same scene, but other than that, I think the model work is really good, even if it was
All the shots in space are great. They're absolutely brilliant considering the restraints they're working under. The model shots, special effects, brilliant. They really are great. And as a kid, I absolutely was completely bought into this.
I don't know. There's a lot in here that works, and then there's a lot that doesn't. The one an effect that doesn't work for me is when you see Cowboy taking off towards the end, and the boosters that are firing from his jets are obviously just in lights. Do you know what I mean? It's
absolutely. I know exactly which bit you mean.
Yeah. And Cowboy throws him as a character anyway. I remember seeing when I was a kid. Again, a lot of this is going back to my first impressions. And when I was a kid, the idea of a cowboy being in space was so out there to me. It was so mind blowing that I instantly fell in love with the character. But now it's less so, I'll say. And part of me thinks, all right, he's a decent character, but didn't he just get a bunch of Akira killed when he just goes and stands in the middle of that corridor and signals for them on either side of him to come and join him? Yes, it looks kind of cool, but the minute they get into the corridor, they're cut down by these Malmori, and you just think, yeah, you'd have been better staying in shelter.
Yeah, you can't look at the film in any way. It says you don't want to look for plot holes because you're going to fall down many holes if that's what you do.
That's a fair point. So yeah, I mean, with regards to the effects, is there anything that in particular, and we're going outside of model work here, is there anything that you think really doesn't work?
I think anything set wise that you look at, a lot of the sort of areas of characters, the robots on the what's his name ship where he meets the father and daughter, the robots, the mime artists, the mime artists on board there is just really, oh dear. I really, I could have missed those scenes quite happily, but overall, you tend to watch it, like I say, while you're doing something else. You can't take any of this too seriously, can you? It's just a bit of silly fun, really.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you one bit that really knocks me. It's not so much about effects, but it's about the plot. So Shad's flying around. He's been sent out to look for mercenaries. And one of the first mercenaries he encounters is Sybil Danning's character, Saint X, who then proceeds to beat him and kick his ass, and then goes, "No, I don't want you. You can sod off."
Yeah.
So the first mercenary that beats him, he tells to sod off. What are you doing?
Although I will say, I kind of like the effects for Cayman. We'll get on to sound design now. There's a little segue there. The supervising sound editor, who was responsible for the sound effects, such as Robert Vaughan's laser shot, which apparently was based on Clint Eastwood's 44 Magnum from Dirty Harry, was David Udall. He was a regular contract worker for Corman Films, and he later remarked on the film's frugal sound editorial budget in his practical art of motion picture sound, and explained some of the sounds. Now, each of the 7 spaceships had its own sound. Obviously, you've commented on that with Gelt's ship. The Nestor ship's sound was made from human voices generated by the community choir from his hometown college in Coalinga. And Robert Vaughan's ship apparently was based on the recording of a dragster. He also Udall also reused several synth effects, and you'll know what I'm talking about immediately as soon as I bring it up. He also reused several synth effects he created for Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he also is the one responsible for the music that is heard on the jukebox in Gelt's chamber, which, for me, he loses a bit of cred with that one, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it obviously it brings us to one of the highlights, another of the highlight of the movie, which, I mean, you mentioned right at the start of this episode, which is James Horner. It was his third film score. Previously worked on Corman's Humanoids from the Deep and Lady in Red, and they brought him back for Battle Beyond the Stars. Now, it features several elements that would become regular staples of Horner's many science fiction and adventure film scores. Several fans have noted similarities between these scores and those for later films such as Krull, Star Trek II, Aliens. Horner, obviously went on to become a regular collaborator with James Cameron and eventually won an Academy Award for Best Original Score for Titanic. And as you say, the score for this one is, I don't think I'm out of line to say it's sublime. I think it takes the best of what he put together for Star Trek II and just kind of runs with it. And since watching the film the other day, I have not been able to get that main theme out of my head. I think it's just fantastic. Like you said, when you bought the LP, I bought it a few years after. I got it on CD. It was a double CD with Humanoids from the Deep. Never listened to Humanoids from the Deep, if I'm being honest. But the Battle Beyond the Stars side just kept getting played and played and played. So, yeah, I mean, I've got nothing else to say on
classic Horner, isn't it? It's absolutely classic Horner. So many films after this had that sound. So he maybe suggests he wasn't the most original when it comes to that side of things, but it's just a beautiful, sweeping naval type score. You imagine it's a score that you'd associate with old ships sailing great sea journeys, and it works so well in this. And they must be so thankful and feeling so blessed to have him making the score for this, because this elevates this film beyond a B movie for me. It is the score's that good, and you only have to put a trailer on with some of this music, and you're like, wow, what is this about?
Definitely, it's, as you say, elevates it, because I think without this score, it would be a very different film. It almost makes it an epic. I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it is an epic, but it gives it that kind of vibe simply from the score alone. And I think it would be a lot poorer had they kind of gone with the old 1970s sci-fi music, beeps and boops and stuff like that. Yeah. I will mention, apparently, I didn't pick up on it, and again, I was listening for it, but apparently in 52 minutes, as the 7 ships turn toward Ikea, the music plays a brief tribute to the Magnificent Seven. So I'm going to have to really listen for that one. But
yeah, I'm going to have to do that as well.
Yeah. So we're getting on to the legacy now. The legacy. I mean, the Starship footage, well, obviously, it's Corman. It was reused in other Corman science fiction films, Space Raiders, which was blasted by critics, as well as in the ultra-low budget Corman feature, Star Quest 2, Vampirella, Fantastic Four, Dead Space, and Forbidden World. The The same footage was also reused in later film and video games. A clip from the film, in 3D no less, is shown during the movie theatre fight scene at the end of Bachelor Party. And footage was also used for the Laserdisc game Astron Belt. Do you know something? That's unlocked a core memory. I can remember being in an arcade and I played that and remember the footage from the film, and I was like, "It's Battle Beyond the Stars, the game," because I was a kid, and I was stupid. I'm not saying I'm any more intelligent now, but he did get his money's worth. But it's nice to see that he felt so highly of. I mean, as we've seen, both the model work and the score to reuse them in other productions.
To be brutally honest, I guess even if he wasn't that impressed with them, he'd probably still use them.
Yeah.
That is the nature of the beast, isn't it?
Yeah. A prequel comic book set 30 years before the film was launched by Blue Water Productions in 2010. Battle Amongst the Stars is a 4-part miniseries that tells the story of tells the story of how Zed began his adventures from the planet Akia with Nell. It also has the characters of Dr. Hephaestus and Sador of the Malmori. And I am going to try and find that now. So,
it'd be an interesting read, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. You'd be like, "Oh, I'll take a peek."
We asked what you out there thought of this one on our socials. Did you like it? Did you hate it? To find out more, we're going to head over to Vian to hear what you had to say. So, Vian, what's the response on this?
Lots and lots of feedback on this film. People really had things to say, starting with NERD Facebook page, Roger and Jason Adcock. Roger says it's a thing of beauty. Jason says, loved this, Last Starfighter and Enemy Mine. Classics. We need to do a marathon. Roger agrees and says, makes me sad with joy to think of it. Next trip. So I guess they're going to be marathoning some stuff. Let's see what else people had to say. John Gibbon, great fun indeed. David Howland, one of our all-star contributors. Magnificent Seven in space, ironically with one of the Mercs playing the same part as in the Cowboy original, not the Yojimbo original. Cult Cinema and TV, our admin Al Winter once again. I genuinely love this movie. One of the best sci-fi themes ever, too. I think, a side note, I think we can attribute that to the great Josh Horner. Watched it at least once a year. Russell Witherman got the 4K recently. Our friend Thomas Labinek, a sometime contributor here, says he has never watched this film. So, you're going to have to get on that, Tommy. Andrew Haunt, big boob spaceship. Whatever that means, and some people found that funny, so I'm guessing that's an in-joke, and I think I'm looking at a picture of it right now. Sandy from our Discord server says, good lord, I just read the premise, I haven't seen this one, and I likely won't, and I think, looking at that image, I'm with you, Sandy. Back to NERD Facebook group, Ryan Wood, still watch this every year. Great fun, and James Horner's score raises it to another level. Kevin Pegg, brilliant. I remember making the spaceship from eggs boxes when I was a kid. A lot of guys seem to like this one. I wonder if the boob spaceship is anything to do with that. Sean Dixon loved this movie, watched it recently. Geo Klingon Hutchinson, another rising contributor, loved it. Have met Sybil Danning, yummy. I'm not sure I'm really comfortable with that description, but hey, I think I've probably used it about people myself. Wayne Herlo says it's such fun. And then getting over to action and sci-fi movies of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Jorg Villasana said it's a cool soundtrack, and I'm always down for a soundtrack, and I do like Josh Horner, so I might just have to check out that if nothing else. Robert Spencer says, junk. Never liked Richard Thomas. John Boy in Space, give me a break. So we have a dissenting opinion here from Robert. Billy Beatty, love it. Looks more expensive than it actually was because of the talent involved. So maybe that's something for people to examine, to get into the how it was made. I always find that so interesting. TSPOE Pods over on Threads. An absolutely bad movie, but damned if it isn't fun. I was a fan of it as a kid when it came on TV, much as I was a fan of anything with pew-pew lasers and spaceships, so I didn't know any better. As an adult, Yeah, I can see all the flaws, but can appreciate the effort that went into some of it. If they had put as much effort into the story and dialogue as they did in the production design, we would have our next space, or not Space Wars, Star Wars, just with a literal space cowboy. From 80s and 90s movies on the Facebook page. Chris Hirsch rewatched it a couple years ago. It was like watching Temu Star Wars. So I'm noticing a trend here. People really, really seem to enjoy this film, though I think a lot of people are acknowledging that it's not particularly good. I would be interested to look into the production aspect and get more into the design and how that kind of syncs up with what seems to be a pretty well written score as well. So for me, that would probably be my main interest just from what people have said. So I don't know, DK, what do you think about these reviews?
Yeah, certainly some varied responses there, Vian. Thank you for that. I look forward to seeing your next episode, and thank you to you out there for letting us know your thoughts. As always, if you didn't get your response in on time, but you still want to have your say, don't worry. As usual, hit us up on our socials, links in the description, or leave a comment here. So yeah, because we're always interested in what you've got to say, especially on something like this. So yeah, with that, it's time to gauge our feelings on this one. So I'm going to ask you, Nigel, final thoughts on Battle Beyond the Stars, and what would you give it out of 5?
I think out of 5, when I watched it the other night, I'd be saying 3.5. I'd be saying don't watch it too often. If you've not seen it, definitely watch it. You've got to see it once. It's one of those films that is just a great popcorn movie. But it's worth a watch. But it's 3.5. I think really there's a lot to like, but don't look at it too hard, or you won't like what you see. And even watching it in HD, sometimes high definition does not help.
Yeah, I noticed that some of the model work fine, but the actual the star background didn't come across that great.
It's not so much the star background for me, it's the sets. When I watched it the other night on Blu-ray, I was like, oh my God, what is this? It's it doesn't necessarily hold up in high definition.
Oh, right. Fair point. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? It's cheap and cheerful. Corman produced flick rides on the coattails of Star Wars quite well, takes a formula already established and gives it a nice space opera twist. Cast work well together and treat the premise and dialogue with as much reverence as it deserves, and make of that what you wish. Yeah, some of it looks distinctly 1970s Doctor Who, but some of it still holds up remarkably well. It's neither better or worse than I remember, and while some of the FX, costumes are laughable, a great deal of the model work still holds up. And yeah, then there's that unforgettable Horner soundtrack. It would be a great addition to any sci-fi collectors out there, but its preoccupation with sex, including the essay, don't do it any favors to me. It's still something that I have fond memories of, though, and I would watch again. But it just misses out with the sum total not being quite as great as some of its parts. So, like you, I'm also going to give it a 3.5. So, yeah, once again, there may be only 2 of us this time around, but we're being objective here. So, averaging our scores out, which strangely enough isn't that hard to do this time, gives Battle Beyond the Stars a final silver screen score of 3.5 out of 5. So, yeah, I'm not altogether sure. I mean, it still holds some fond memories, but certain aspects I look back upon definitely with rose-tinted spectacles. I think it's a fair enough score. Would you say?
There's enough in this film that will just make you laugh, because some of it is really laughable, literally. Some of it is really kind of awful in parts, but there's a certain charm to it that you're laughing almost with it rather than at it. So it's one of those that it's part of sort of sci-fi movie history. It's one of those classic films in a way that a lot of people will talk about. So I always think it's worth watching, but it's not what you're going to go back to too often. Let's be fair.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that for this episode. I mean, I don't know about you, Nigel, but yeah, I've enjoyed this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I always enjoy these. I wish I got a little bit of time to do more.
Yeah, well, maybe it's someday if we if the opportunity arises, you'll be one of the first people I'll let know, mate. I mean, I've got to say,
no, always a pleasure, never a chore.
Cool. Yeah, I was more than a little hesitant on this one. I mean, some might say I was dreading it, but I've honestly had a good time. So, thank you for joining me, Phil. It was great to have you back on.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
No worries. I mean, while we're here, is there anything you'd like to plug? Anywhere the listeners can find you?
No, I'll be working no matter where people try looking for me. I'll just be at work. that's my life at the moment.
Fair enough. So yeah, if you out there listening, yes, you have enjoyed today's episode, then please hit the like and subscribe buttons. We've got more from the world of movies coming up regularly on this channel. They may not always be as classy as today's offering, but if you love film, we've got plenty of things coming up that will whet your appetite. And if you're interested, you can join us on the show yourself to talk movies. We're always happy to welcome new guests and chat film. So, if you're up for that, drop us a line and we'll be in touch. Speaking of which, we'll be back in just a couple of weeks for a special episode. So until then, take care, dear listener. Hope to see you soon. And I'm off now to talk about mating habits of various species. So good night.
You have been listening to the Cult Classic Show, part of the Silver Screen Podcast. Created, written, and hosted by DK. Editing by Mike Wilson. Feedback section produced by Lady VN. Opening credits by Ian Sanderson. Music by Timeless Journey. Follow us on social media. Links to all of our social media pages can be found on our link tree. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. This has been a Mad Badger production for the Media Matters Podcast Network. Copyright 2024. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you next time. And remember, no matter where you go, there you are.